UFC 260 full card predictions and the betting odds. Main event: Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou, the rematch. Some fun fights throughout the card. Let's start with the first fight of the night. The returning Abu Zayator takes on Marc Andre Barriault. Rough go for Barriault early on in his UFC career. 3 straight defeats, hasn't caught a win, but he did have a victory overturned. It was a no contest, but he did win the fight when it actually took place. But 3-fight losing streak: Jong Park, Krzysztof Jotko, Andrew Sanchez. The Jotko split decision's actually kind of impressive. Jotko's a pretty good fighter. Andrew Sanchez, well-rounded. And actually Park has looked pretty good too. I believe he's on a win streak. Forgivable losses here. He now takes on Abu Zayator. Zayator was a hot prospect who's just been delayed. World Series of Fighting veteran. He came in the UFC in 2018. He fought Vitor Miranda, wins a decision. Has not fought since then. You see the 2 cancellations there. Has had some issues as far as drug testing goes. And now he's coming in against Marc Andre Barriault, who's had a good amount of experience, has remained active over the years, and is a pretty good striker. Abu Zayator has more credentials as far as his kickboxing goes. He does have some really good amateur credentials. Marc Andre Barriault, though, powerful striker, good mixed martial artist, well-rounded, and he's active. He's fighting more often. I think he's going to beat Abu Zayator. He's also the bigger man, 6'1". Zayator, the UFC actually had him at 5'9", with a 76-inch reach. Maybe he is 5'11". As the reach goes, Zayator has the advantage. He likes to rush in with flurries of punches, a bit awkward at times, but I think Barriault catches him with something and knocks him out. I think second-round knockout. Marc Andre Barriault, he's a -115 favorite. The odds are pick'ems in this one to the -105 dog. I think Barriault does win, and I think he knocks out the once hot prospect, Abu Zayator, in this fight. Next fight of the night: Shane Young, city kickboxing protege, Omar Morales, dangerous striker. Morales is a really good fighter. We'll quickly bring up his record. He lost to Giga Chikadze in his last fight. Chikadze looked good in that matchup and really beat him up, but win over Gabriel Benitez, that's a legit victory. Dong Huma. And then, obviously the Harvey Park fight on the Contender Series, it was 12-2. His experience in Bellator as well. Shane Young, training with very good fighters, with world champions. You look at his UFC career, bad loss in his last fight. Ludovic Klein, really good kickboxer, went out and starched him in a minute. He lost to Volkanovski as well. I think Omar Morales is going to be a tricky fight for Shane Young. I think it's not going to be a total washout like you saw with Ludovic Klein, but I do think Omar Morales has a good opportunity to win here. But the one factor that really is significant to take in here is the fact that he's 35 in the featherweight division. I don't like that. I think he's an older guy and still getting momentum, but coming off of a dominant loss. Shane Young training with an elite level team, getting better and better. Granted, it's not that Morales doesn't have good teammates and isn't training hard. Youth is on the side of Shane Young. I believe he's improving. That was a tough loss to get Ludovic Klein, but he still had a good amount of momentum coming into that fight. He's the dog here against a man who's 8 years his elder, coming off of a dominant loss, but a fight that he did show durability. So can Shane Young go the distance? We'll quickly look back at the record because he's a guy that can. I mean, Volkanovski has a decision loss to. I'm impressed by that. Austin Arnett, you see a unanimous decision. TK over Rolando Dai. Not the most impressive is Shane Young, but he's a damn live underdog here against Omar Morales. Morales, though, is, I think, the more explosive striker, but he's hittable. You see him getting hit with shots straight down the line. You saw what Giga Chikadze did to him. Can Shane Young replicate that? I don't think it's easy, but I think there's likelihood he can, and I do think Shane Young, by a close decision here, for an upset over Omar Morales. He's 35. I got to ride with the youth in this matchup. He's a +145 dog. I think there's a lot of value there. I have Shane Young to win this fight by a decision over the very skilled Omar Morales. Next fight of the night: Modestas Bauskas takes on Michael Oleksiejczuk. Look at the grappling of Oleksiejczuk. It's impressive. You look at Modestas Bauskas, good striker, 6'3", 78-inch reach, has a lot of attributes that I really like. Both guys young, 27 and 26, have long careers ahead of them. We'll quickly look at Oleksiejczuk's last 2 fights. I think they were finished losses. Yeah, Jimmy Crute and Ovince St. Preux. both solid names, but Bauskas' last fight was a bad loss to Jimmy Crute. He was knocked out there in the first round. Has that quick win over Gazamat Antagulov, Gian Vellante, beat Khalil Roundtree. Olenjejchuk can fight, and so can Bauskas. It's a close fight. It's competitive. I really do like Bauskas. I think his range management as far as the striking goes is very good. My worry, though, is does he get put on his back and controlled here against Olenjejchuk? Because we know Olenjejchuk is a decent grappler. Yes, he's had losses by submission, but the guys that he's losing to are top 15 or very close to that. Bauskas, not top 15. Does he have the potential to become top 15? I would say absolutely. He's got a good skill set. Olenjejchuk, though, very tough fight. Both guys coming off losses. I gotta ride Olenjejchuk. I think the difference is he'll land some takedowns here, and he'll put it on Modestas Bauskas. He's a minus 150 favorite. It's slight. I think this is more so a pick'ems fight, but I think Olenjejchuk does win here. I have him beating Bauskas. I could see a submission here. Could also see a unanimous decision. I'm thinking between those two, but Olenjejchuk getting it done is the most likely outcome, at least for me. And I do think mixing in the grappling is going to help his case here a lot, and I think he does pull off a victory over Modestas Bauskas. Fun fight in the light heavyweight division. Pretty good card for the first 3 fights. I mean, I think there's some good talent on this card. Akbar Nurmagomedov and Jared Gooden. You look at Gooden's last fight. The fight was very impressive. Went out there with Alan Jouban, landed some big shots. Overall, was beaten by the more technical striker. Abubakar Nurmagomedov has had a shaky last few. Let's just quickly pull it up. He had the loss to David Zawada. Triangle choke submission. But Jared Gooden's not a guy that's going to tap you. I mean, he can. He's got grappling skills, but he's not. I don't see him tapping Nurmagomedov. That's how I should say it. Bohan Velokovic, decent fighter. Had a draw there in the PFL. I believe that fight was a 2-rounder. Can't really hold that against him. He got submitted against Pavel Kush. Has a win over Matt Secor. A lot of decisions. If you can catch him by submission while he's controlling on the ground, that's your best bet to victory. Jared Gooden, good fighter, knockout power in his hands. I like his striking, but he's coming in there against a guy that can wrestle well, but he does have some submissions here. There's upside here in the dog. I think that Gooden is game. He's a guy that can fight. We've seen it. I mean, you look at the last fight, he put it on Alan Jouban, but it's a different style. I think Nurmagomedov is going to chain wrestle, get him to the ground, and I do think we see Nurmagomedov, the favorite here, get a win by a decision. Gooden's got the knockout chance here, but I'm not going to ride with the puncher's chance in this fight. I'm going Nurmagomedov, unanimous decision win over Jared Gooden. If he does upset him, I'd be very impressed because I do like Gooden, and he is a fun guy to watch. Odds there were minus 225 to plus 175. Strong favorite. Nurmagomedov, though, I don't know about the best bet because he has lost some fights in the past and he can get submitted even when he's on top. We've seen it happen, but I just don't think Gooden's the guy to do it to him. Now we move up to Alonzo Menfield, Fabio Sharon. It was supposed to be William Knight. Disappointed that we don't get to see that fight because I was really excited to see William Knight and Alonzo Menfield. It was a striker's dream fight. But this is honestly a pretty good replacement. Fabio Sharon's a good striker. You look at his fight against Aleksei Kimura. That was on the Contender Series. He was doing pretty good. He was having a good performance. He landed a big shot and then a flying knee lands. Forgivable defeat. Alonzo Menfield has dropped his last 2, but he's dangerous. You look at some of his wins inside the Octagon. They're impressive. He beat Paul Craig in the first round. Vincius Morea, he knocked him out on the Contender Series. 8-second knockout win. LFA experience. He started off his career undefeated at 9-0 and then ran into Devin Clark, who's a bad matchup. Ovin St. Preux, very tricky, experienced veteran. He now takes Fabio Sharon, the LFA light heavyweight champion. He's coming off a win over Myron Dennis. I don't know if you know Myron Dennis. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. Decent fighter. Has fought in LFA. Good amount of experience. 3-fight win streak here. Wins by decision. Still, I'm impressed. I think this kid's good. There's a lot of upside. He's young too. 26 versus 33. The thing is, in the light heavyweight division, you tend to get better with age. Menfield's last 2 losses, I believe, were very good learning experiences. It's hard to pick against Menfield here. I think he does have a legit case here to get a win over Fabio Sharon. But does Menfield go gas himself out looking for the knockout of the first round? Sharon's only loss is he got kneed in the face, a flying knee. I think he takes a good shot. I still think Menfield, though, He should win. Short notice replacement. Everything looks like it should be Menfield's fight. But Fabio Sharon is going to be a dangerous underdog here. I'll quickly pull up if the odds are listed yet. But I don't think that they are at the moment because this fight was just recently announced. And Tapology doesn't have them up. Let's see if we can find any betting odds for this fight. Okay, they just came out. Minus 260 favorite is Menfield to the plus 200 underdog, Fabio Sharon. It's not enough known about Sharon. He's coming off wins. It's hard to pick against Menfield, a guy that's been in there with top competition. We have seen what Menfield struggles with. Awkward styles. Sharon, a little more typical. He is a southpaw. But something to note. Dangerous southpaw. Big overhand on the left side. I still feel Menfield has a good chance of victory here. But has he developed the patience? Is he going to go all out looking for the KO? And if it doesn't come, does Fabio Sharon then have what it takes to take over, win the fight by a decision? I think Menfield wins. I think he could get a TKO. But don't sleep on Fabio Sharon. Live underdog here. Don't think you're going with Alonzo Menfield and getting a safe bet. I don't think it is. I have Menfield winning. I think he does get it done. I'd like to see more of Fabio Sharon. Obviously, after seeing him in the Octagon for the first time, we're really going to get a wide look at his skill set. I think Menfield, though. It's hard to pick against Menfield here. I think he does win, but Fabio Sharon at plus 200, maybe. He's a live dog. Definitely live, but I'm riding Menfield. The next fight of the night takes us to the main card. Kama Worthy's a guy that has had good success beating guys by upset. Jamie Mullarkey, actually the underdog here, so we get to see Kama Worthy as a favorite going into this matchup. Mullarkey's dropped his last two. He's a good fighter. Has fought Volkanovski, actually, outside of the UFC. Lost to Faraziam, unanimous decision. Brad Riddell, unanimous decision. He's a tough guy, good fighter. Kama Worthy, though, very tricky. He's unorthodox. He brings big power. And he also, pretty good submission game off his back. He's unexpectedly good with his submissions. If you look at that win over Luis Pena, I was very impressed. Knocked out Devontae Smith. 2 big wins in the UFC, and then Otoman Zayator starches him. Zayator is a really hot prospect. Jamie Mullarkey is not at that level of danger here. I think that Kama Worthy, being as awkward as he is, having the punching power and the submission threat, I still think he can get a win over Jamie Mullarkey. I really think he should win here. If it's a loss, then it's like, okay, maybe Worthy was just one of those guys that had a few good, not lucky, but a good amount of momentum on his side where he was able to get them together. I have Kama Worthy winning. I think he gets a victory here. I think he needs to be prepared for 3 rounds. Mullarkey's not going to go down easy, but I still think knockout. Kama Worthy second round KO here over Jamie Mullarkey is my prediction for this fight. I do think he knocks out Mullarkey here. Mullarkey was knocked out by Alexander Volkanovski. Granted, very different levels of skills. Still something to note. He can be put out, and we have seen it. Next fight, Jillian Robertson, Miranda Maverick. It's interesting, kind of not crossroads because both are young girls. Jillian Robertson, though, for being only 25, has a good amount of UFC experience. Maverick, less of that, 23. We'll quickly pull up both the records. Maverick's last fight, off the top of my head, I can't remember. It was Lilian Georgia. It was a doctor's cut stoppage. Before that, beat Pearl Gonzalez. Deanna Bennett hasn't had the level of experience that Jillian Robertson has had. Jillian's had fights against good names. Let's quickly pull up those names. Talia Santos, who's pretty good, 16-1 as a pro. Paliana Botella. Courtney Casey, she holds a win over. Macy Barber. Sarah Farther. I mean, I'm impressed by the resume. And yeah, she has the experience on The Ultimate Fighter. So she's been in the game in the UFC since 2017. Fighting good competition, time in and time out. There's a lot of upside with Miranda Maverick. But she's only 23 years of age. I don't know if she necessarily has that ability to dominate Jillian Robertson like we saw Macy Barber do, who was another young, hot prospect. I think the Macy Barber underdog pick here is not a bad one. I think she does win. I think it's competitive, and I could see a decision. But Robertson is pretty skilled. Talia Santos, strong girl, was able to beat her up and outwork her, but has wins over Courtney Casey, which I take those into consideration. Those are valuable victories. Miranda Maverick, the lesser experienced girl, she's smaller at 5'3", does have a 2-inch reach advantage. But I think that size, not being as big as Jillian Robertson as far as stature goes, advantage Robertson because she is good on the ground. I think Jillian does get a win here. I think she does so by a hard-fought decision, upsets Miranda Maverick, and which should be a fun fight. I do think these girls will go at it, might cancel each other's grappling out, and might see a bit of a sloppy kickboxing match, which I would not be opposed to, especially if they're going at it. I'm going to ride Robertson at the plus 140. I like the dog in this fight. Next fight of the night, Thomas Almeida, Sugar Sean O'Malley. I made a video about this already. You guys know Sean O'Malley is my pick. If you watched that video, if you didn't, you should check it out. I think Sean O'Malley is going to outwork him on the feet. Almeida was a hot prospect, was undefeated, lost, has won one fight since then. 4 out of his last 5 are losses. Hasn't got what he once had. Coming off a loss to Jonathan Martinez. Sean O'Malley knockout first round. That's my prediction here. People might say, oh, you're jumping on the hype train. We've seen him exposed. Well, at the end of the day, Thomas Almeida is not Chito Vera. There's a level difference here. Sean O'Malley works Thomas Almeida. And I bet Almeida's going to come out with a similar game plan. I think he's going to attack the legs. O'Malley will be ready for it. He's going to counter and knock out Thomas Almeida, I think, in the first round. This is Sean O'Malley's fight. He's a huge favorite at minus 320 to the plus 240 dog, rather. I like O'Malley here. You can bet on him. Minus 320. Not going to bring you that much back unless you're putting in a good amount in. I still like O'Malley. Sugar Show, knockout victory, first round. Almeida's good. He's a veteran of the game. But there's a level difference as far as the striking goes, and I think the grappling of O'Malley will hold up here. Now we've arrived at the co-main event. I am pumped for this fight. Vincente Lucas is very good. Tyron Woodley, one of the greatest heavyweights, one of the greatest welterweights we've seen in a long time. One of the greatest ever. At one point they were claiming it. Bad 3-fight losing streak. Usman, Burns, and Covington. Tapped out against Colby. Isn't active anymore. Doesn't mix it up like he once has. Isn't unloading. Vincente Lucas throws combinations. He's aggressive and he can take damn good punishment because Stephen Wonderboy Thompson put it on him and he went the distance. He's going to beat Tyron Woodley. Woodley, his chance here would be wrestling. I don't see him mixing it up. I don't see him unloading big shots. He's not the same Woodley. He's 38 now. The younger man, Vincente Lucas, is the pick here. The youth wins. 29, Vincente Lucas beats a 38-year-old Woodley. You talk about this fight 5 years ago, probably going to give you Tyron Woodley to win. But he looks shot. He hasn't looked like himself anymore. Tyron Woodley, maybe at the time where he should call it, especially if he loses dominantly to Lucas and doesn't even put up a fight. It's not the fact that he's lost 3 straight fights against some of the top guys in the world that is my issue, but it's the fact that he isn't really able to do anything. He's getting shut down, and he's very limited as far as his offense goes. Not unloading strikes, not even really looking for takedowns. It's not a good look. I think Lucas wins by a decision here. If Woodley goes out there and beats him and shuts everybody up, I'd be happy for him because Woodley's an OG of the game. I've been following him a long time. But I do think Vincente Lucas is a smart pick, and I think he wins. At the minus 260, he gets it done against the plus 200 underdog, Tyron Woodley. And what a fall it's been for Woodley over these past few years since losing the belt. He might prove us all wrong, though. He might go out there and starch Vincente Lucas and shut us up. But if not, I just think from what we've seen, it's going to be Lucas. Now, the main event, Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou. This is an exciting fight. Their first fight, Stipe Miocic won. He ended the hype of the Predator, Francis Ngannou. But Ngannou has gone on a 4-fight tear. We'll quickly pull up the 4-fight tear because it's been epic. It's been quick knockouts left and right. We have not seen him tested. I will 100% agree to that. We haven't seen it. See if the record loads in here. We have not seen him tested. But he beat Curtis Blaydes in 45 seconds, Velasquez in 26, Junior in a minute 11, and Jairzinho in 20 seconds. If there's one thing we always have to take into consideration, Ngannou touches you once, it can be the end of your night. Does he touch Stipe Miocic? He hit him in the first fight, and you look, unanimous decision for Stipe. If you look at the odds, he was a minus 190 coming into that first fight over Stipe Miocic. Stipe is a legend of the game. Doesn't have the insane knockout power that Ngannou has. Very well-rounded and mixes in the wrestling well. The thing is, I believe Ngannou has significantly improved. Now, could be a guess. We could be totally wrong. Could be Ngannou hasn't improved. He's the exact same fighter. But he's leaned out as well. He looks more explosive. If he can fend off Stipe's grappling attacks and land a big punch, I think Ngannou can really get it done here. Relying on the puncher's chance is not normally a good route to go, but I think Ngannou is a different type of puncher, and if he can fend off the grappling of Stipe, I really can see Ngannou pulling this one off. Look at Stipe's last 3. He was put out by Cormier. Not saying the chin isn't there. He has an iron chin, but he could be knocked out. I think it's probable. It's possible. Daniel Cormier, he wins by stoppage, and then a unanimous decision over Cormier. Cormier, legend of the game. Good resume. He was finishing most guys. Since fighting Ngannou, it's been decision, or actually, rather, he got the one TKO. And his last fight was a decision over Daniel Cormier, who's another GOAT, one of the greatest. Very tricky fight to pick, but I think Ngannou has closed the gap more so than Stipe. Stipe's definitely improving. Stipe can prove me wrong and win this fight. I definitely could see it. High possibility. It's not the strongest of confidence picks, but I think Ngannou can knock him out. I think the stars are aligning. I think the improvement of the game of Ngannou is going to be shown here. Stipe struggled with a very inexperienced Francis Ngannou. Ngannou's been getting better and better since that last fight. And yes, Stipe has too. He's definitely gotten better. But let's take into consideration this. How long had Ngannou been training MMA at that point? He's been training probably almost double the time now. The improvement's going to be drastic, and he went 5 rounds with Stipe back then. He'll beat Stipe Miocic. I think under 2 rounds knockout is what he needs. If it goes into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I start really heavily leaning Stipe, and I think he can get a TKO, actually, if he gets it to the ground. But I'm going to ride Ngannou. I think most likely Ngannou catches him with something in the first 2 rounds if he is able to fend off those early takedowns, because you know Stipe's coming to set up some shots and tire Ngannou out. Riding Ngannou, knockout win. He's a -120 favorite to the +100 dog. The odds here are even to me. Stipe probably should be the favorite. He's the greatest heavyweight of all time. Win or lose, Stipe's still the GOAT heavyweight. If Francis wins, don't be surprised when that trilogy comes around. If Stipe wins, that sets up the John Jones fight. Really, it's a no-lose situation because there are huge fights coming in the heavyweight division, no matter what. This is the most stacked we've seen the heavyweight division in a very long time, maybe ever. And it's a division in MMA that's hot as hell right now. I think Francis gets the win and becomes the new champion. Should be an epic main event, UFC 260. I cannot wait for it. This is an awesome card. It takes place the 27th of March, this Saturday. Make sure you guys buy that pay-per-view. Tune in. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Also, guys, follow my social media. Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I'll leave them all in the description below. And I thank you all so much for viewing. And I'll see you guys in the next video.